Good afternoon. I hope your Saturday is going well. You're watching the SABC News channel as we count down to an important announcement coming out of the Results Operations Centre at 6 o'clock this evening. We believe that this could be the announcement of the results by the Independent Electoral Commission. All of that's still to come, but for the next 2 hours we continue giving you coverage of the results process. The voting has come to an end. All the voting districts have been declared, as it were, and now we wait for the final declaration of those results and the final polls and the tallying and the calculations of who sits where and who's going to be in control of what will be taking place. I'm Peter Ndoro. Thanks for tuning in. This is the SABC News channel. Now, parties have met with the IEC this afternoon to tell us more about what the meeting was. I'm now joined on the line by the Head of Policy and Strategy of the African Transformation Movement, Mzwanele Manyi. Mzwanele, thanks very much indeed for joining us. I suppose initially you're disappointed at the results of the polls.
Hi there, Peter, and good evening to your viewers. No, we're not disappointed. In fact, we want to take this opportunity to thank the South Africans that came in their numbers to vote for the ATM. Indeed, our expectations were higher, but for us as the servants of the people, we take whatever we're given. So what we've got, we thank God, and we thank the people for expressing confidence in us the manner they have.
All right, but you and a number of other parties do have concerns about the electoral process, and you've been meeting with the IEC. Have you met them today, and what came out of that?
Indeed, we did have a lot of queries about the process. We have been on the media about issues around the ink, issues around this double voting and what have you. So there's a whole range of issues that were logged formally within the system as ATM. And to cut the long story short, we also were part of the group of 27 political parties that had raised similar concerns. But for our position as ATM was that we would give the IEC an opportunity to respond to these issues. And indeed they did today in two ways. The first thing, IEC wrote a letter to the parties and explained the situation. And also then part of that explanation was that at some time today there was going to be a clear explanation from the Statistician General. I attended that meeting with the Statistician General, and he explained how they did their sampling. He did how they did their statistical treatment. So, and the outcome of that is that the variance is about 1.3% at a 90th percentile. So, in other words, the materiality of the issues, although it's still important, but it's not a showstopper. Yeah. So, for us as the ATM, we're of the view that we as ATM cannot continue to hold the country to ransom. We as ATM want to respect the will of the people of South Africa, and the explanation that was given is an explanation that adequately addressed our issue because the Statistician General is an independent person himself. So, an independent eyes have looked into the matter and they have come to a sober conclusion that there's really not much to worry about.
All right. So when these concerns were raised, you were working as a grouping. Is this a view that the other members of this group that you had belonged to the same, that they're going to accept this result after this explanation, or are there still some that you might know that are just going to continue to fight this?
I really don't want to speak for them, but they were in the press briefing. They said my position is a sellout position, which they have a right to freedom of expression. In my understanding, they are continuing with the court process. Yeah, but ATM has come this far, no further. For us as ATM, we are quite happy with the explanations given so far. by the IEC itself and by the Statistician General. So the other parties that are proceeding, they can proceed on their own accord. We are not part of that as ATM. Right now, we are now actually moving to the results center to listen to the official announcement.
All right, so what next for the ATM? 76,826 people put across next to your name. So you have some support, you'll have some seats in Parliament. What next?
Well, what the next thing to do is indeed for ATM to go to Parliament and with the limited number of seats that we have, but to make our voice heard. We want to be the voice of reason in Parliament, and we want to bring to persuade other parties to see that there are quite a few things that need to be done. And our manifesto is very clear on these things. One of them is to Africanize the Constitution. One of them is to work on ensuring that triple PFA is indeed repealed. We will push that in Parliament. We will also push the issue of the CIDB, that construction law, to make sure that that construction law, construction sector law, enables a lot more players than it's currently doing. So those are some of the things that we'll be pushing as ATM, and indeed, chiefly amongst the things, we'll be persuading other parties that indeed we need to decolonize the economy of this country. So we'll be pushing that very hard because we think a decolonized economy creates more internal ownership of the economy by the South Africans, and this is what we want to achieve. So ATM now has got a voice in Parliament, and ATM will raise its issues very sharply in Parliament. But outside Parliament, we'll be going back to our people, we'll be going back to a door-to-door to understand a lot more, in a much more finer detail, what are some of the issues that people want addressed. So for us as ATM, we continue with a posture of being the servants of the people. So we'll be going to the people to say, here we are as your servants, ask what is it that we need to do for you, and we'll do exactly that.
Do you think that perhaps a consolidation process probably needs to happen, particularly for the very much smaller parties, so that together you might have a bigger share of voice than to have lots of small ones?
I think that is an important thing to do, but I think some of these things are easier said than done. Key issue here is the issue of values. Sometimes you differ at a values level. You see, for us as ATM, we know that we are an honorable party. We know that we are a peaceful party. We know that we want to be servants of the people. Now, you may very well have a lot of people that want to do things, but if you have people that don't love peace, that just want to be at war all the time, then it might be a challenge. You see, but if you also have people that don't want to put the interests of South Africa above the interests of their own narrow political party interests, then we have a problem. So I'm saying at a theoretical level, it's good for smaller parties to consolidate. But at a practical level, that consolidation will be meaningless if there is a variance in terms of the value system.
And is Mzwanele Manyi very happy that he made the right choice in his political home?
Yeah, we're very happy. We're very happy that the ATM is a proper home for all people that want to make a contribution in this country, for all people that also fear God. We're a God-fearing party. We will also ensure that Parliament fears God. One of the things that we want to introduce in Parliament is the issue of praying all the time before the sittings and praying after the sittings. So those are some of the things that we'll be suggesting even within the rule books of Parliament.
All right, Mzwanele Manyi, we're going to leave it there. Thank you very, very much indeed. That's the head of policy for the ATM, the African Transformation Movement. They got 76,826 votes in the national election, 0.44% of the vote. So it looks like they're going to get at least one, probably two seats in Parliament. We'll have to wait and see when the allocation comes through. But he's thankful for the votes that they got, and it's a start, he says, but certainly I'm sure that at some point they're going to have to start to consolidate a lot of these parties. 48, a record number, coming together, putting their logos on the voting ballot, and maybe they need to come together to have a bigger share of voice. And he says an important conversation to have, but most importantly, they've now withdrawn their objection to the results that have come through, saying that the explanation that they received from the Statistician General said that there was an error rate of as little as 1.something%. And so for the issues that they had raised and the concerns that they had raised, this was not an error rate that would change the results and change the will of the people. So they are now withdrawing, and they're preparing themselves as a party to go to the Results Operations Centre to hear the final results. We'll wait and see what the other smaller parties do going forward.